I'm going to put baits on, especially when it's tough, that I have confidence in, you know, and for me, you know, it's different for everybody in here, but put stuff on that you have confidence in, stuff that you can cover water with, and that's going to be a big thing. And those guys that are just changing lures all the time, you know, I kind of skipped over that really quick, but put stuff that you have confidence on. That's a huge deal. And to touch on that a little bit further, what do bass eat? I mean, they eat shad, they eat bluegills, and they eat crawdads 90% of the time. Now, we can say there's frog baits over there on them shelves. I saw some bird baits. You know, Aaron Martin said they eat blackbirds at, you know, an event. There's lizards. There's all kinds of other things. But let's just keep it simple here. 90% of the time, they eat 3 things. I kind of tend to lean towards those crawdads in the spring, those red colored baits, those brown and orange colored baits. I lean towards bluegill colored baits in and around the spawn, you know, because them bluegill are all the time pestering those bass. And then really the rest of the time of the year, I'm thinking shad, you know, because that's really what they're focusing on. That, of course, they're going to eat a blackbird or they're going to eat a whatever, but day in, day out, when you're struggling, remember those 3 things. Just, they eat those 3 things. It's about putting a bait in front of a bass, and they're really opportunistic eaters, and it doesn't matter how many colors of chartreuse you have in your chartreuse and white spinnerbait, I promise.
Understanding your electronics is the most important part of fishing for walleyes. This is my #1 resource. I use it all the time. There's been many applications on larger bodies of water that was a trolling presentation that I went out to my #1 spot and there was nothing there. And I had to drive around at 25 miles an hour looking for fish. And you'll see a lot of us tournament anglers do that on Lake Erie. You'll see us do it on Green Bay. Saginaw Bay is another one, and it's the reason, as you all know, the school moves, and you know they're following the bait. So any questions about the traditional 2D? Okay, trolling line for me, Trilene XT 10 pound. 99.9% of the professional anglers on tour are using that line. The question is why? All of the dive curves on every single crankbait and every time we run harnesses is based on 10-pound tests. If I jump it to 14, if I jump it to 10 or to 12, it's going to change where my bait lies in the water column. And for me, with this exact screen and this scenario, I would have my baits at 20 feet, 22, I always run a high one, but I want it to be right here. So if I'm too far by 2 feet or a foot underneath these fish and it's a little cloudy like it can get on Lake Erie, I'm not talking the muddy stuff, but I'm talking cloudy, I am not going to catch those fish. I'm going to see them on the graph. I know they're active because they're up off the bottom, and I know they're feeding, and I know there's bait, and everything's great on this picture, but I'm not catching fish. And the reason is my bait is in the wrong place in this water column. Or I'm going too slow, or I'm going too fast. So be sure to change up. Try different things.
You know, when I first started getting into musky fishing in the early 2000s, we were basically using what amounted to heavy bass rods. You know, I had a, 5600 series or a 6500 series Abu reel and, a 7.5 heavy action rod. Well, and that worked great, but now, this is kind of the, where we've gone, where we've gone with musky fishing. I mean, if you're going to throw these big baits, having the right equipment makes it a lot easier. So this is a Shimano just introduced these this year. This is the new Skix series rod. It's just, really good technology, light, strong. Really sensitive rod. And this is a Tranx 500 HG reel. This reel will, each crank of the handle reels in 42 inches of line. So when you're fishing these big baits, it's just a lot less effort to get that, to get that bait moving through the water. When we're fishing in the, in the Great Lakes, especially on St. Clair, a lot of times you're just kind of, fishing around these big weed beds out in open water, and we drift. So you just get your boat parallel to the waves, and you just drift with the waves. You just bomb, with the wind at your back, you just bomb the bait out there, and you just, you're basically just, just working the bait back to the, back to the boat. Where the long rod, I think, helps a couple things. Number one, it's, it's leverage, right? So, you can really bomb cast, and it doesn't take that much effort to throw that big bait.